Hey guys, Mike here from Lunch Money Comics. Today I'm in Southwick, Massachusetts at the Yellow Bear Indoor Tag Sale. Let's see if they have some comic books. Well, that didn't take long. All right, guys, so there was one booth with comic books and everything was listed as $1. I guess the seller was having a blowout sale, and even though I got everything for $1, I got some pretty good ones, I think. I'll see you back home to the house and show you what I got. So there you go, guys. That was the Yellow Bear Indoor Tag Sale in Southwick, Massachusetts. And this is going to be another one of those lunch money, lunch break videos. Those videos where I go out at lunchtime, usually when I'm working, I have a small window to hunt for comic books, buy some cheap ones, and talk about them here on my channel. That's sort of what this is, because I wasn't really working that day. As a matter of fact, it was the weekend and I was camping. I'll spare you guys the whole story, but we were doing some winter camping and we realized that we forgot some food at home, food we intended to cook over the fire at dinner that night. So I had to go out to the nearby town to get some more groceries, and I figured, hey, I have about 10-15 minutes to go hunting for some comic books. Now, I knew this place existed, and I knew there were comic books there because the guy who owned those comic books actually posted on a New England comic collecting Facebook group that he was basically getting rid of all of these back issues, all these long boxes he had at his house. He was selling at this place, and he was getting rid of them really cheap at $1 a piece. So when I saw that post, I made a mental note of where it was, and I said, hey, I'll be camping there in a few weeks. I'll try to hit this place, on my last day when I'm leaving. Well, fate intervened. I had to go out for those groceries, put it in the GPS, saw it was only 10 minutes away, and said, I got some time. So I headed over there, and guys, the thing with $1 books is you can get in a lot of trouble, right? You start adding them to a pile, like, oh, they're just $1. And you have 10, then you have 20, and before you know it, you have an entire long box of comic books that you don't really need. So I figured I would restrict myself not only on time, again, people were waiting for me, but also on money. So I checked my wallet and I saw that I had $13 US. And some of these smaller places don't always accept cards. Most of them do, obviously. But I figured, hey, I get $13 in my wallet. With tax, I can get 12 comic books. That seems like a good place to stop, right? So I went in there. I was there for 15 minutes. Went through these books. I think I came down to like 20 books, and I had to really think about, which of the 12 I would keep. So got rid of the last 8, went up to the counter, and of course, it's 2023. Of course, they accepted cards. That's fine. $12 was a great way to restrict myself in time and money and make sure the books I got were ones that I actually wanted. And you heard at the end of that clip, I'm pretty happy with some of these books, and they're definitely worth more than $1 each. So before I show you guys what I got, if you like this sort of stuff, go down, hit that like button. Feel free to share my channel with other people who might like it. Consider subscribing if you haven't, and follow me on Instagram under Lunch Money Comics IG. All right, most people know that I'm primarily a Marvel guy, but I have some DC books to start us off. Starting with this is Green Lantern number 19. It's from 1991. You see, this is the special 50th anniversary issue celebrating 50 years of Green Lantern. And because of this, we have all of the Green Lanterns that had existed at the time. We have the original Alan Scott. We have Hal Jordan, John Stewart, and Guy Gardner right there. I don't think this is a key or anything like that, but it's a really, really cool looking book. I love Green Lantern. I thought this was awesome. Very happy to pick this up for $1. Great looking comic. Staying with DC, we have a new Teen Titans book. This has no number because it's one of those special issues. This is the President's Drug Awareness Campaign. So I love collecting books like this that exist outside of the normal comic book, chronology. This was really big in the 80s, these anti-drug campaigns that President Reagan was doing at the time, but also carried on into the 90s. And they would use different mediums like, cartoons or comic books to try to get this message to kids. And I've collected these in the past. Whenever I can find them, I think they're pretty neat. And I had to have this one. So I have other actually Teen Titan ones, but not this exact book here. So I thought that was pretty cool. And staying on that same sort of topic, we have a Captain America one. Captain America goes to war against drugs. You see this one was sponsored by Walbaum's Food Mart, and you also have $33 of coupons inside. So I thought that was pretty cool. And again, they just exist outside of your normal continuity. I just always think these are really interesting, a great snapshot in history. I love picking them up whenever I can. Totally worth $1. Okay, my favorite character of all time is Nightcrawler. Whenever I see a Nightcrawler cover, I usually have to get it, and this is no exception. This is Nightcrawler number 9. It's from 2004. It's a Derek Robertson cover. And I just think it was a really cool cover. I have no idea what happens in it. I've never read this Nightcrawler series, despite the fact I'm a huge fan. But it's a cool cover. I wanted it. All right, here's a really cool book. This is X Factor number 10. It's from 1986. This has several things going for it. First off, you see it has the 25th anniversary Marvel border. So this is the 25th anniversary from Fantastic Four number 1. Basically, when they became Marvel comic books and the Silver Age started and all these big superhero books came up, they were celebrating 25 years, and lots of books in 1986 had this specialty border around it. You have a really cool art of Cyclops right in the middle. So, of course, this book has X Factor in it, the original X-Men, but it's also part 2 of the Mutant Massacre story, which is a huge storyline for the X-Men in the mid-80s. It's also the second full appearance of Apocalypse. So, just a cool book all around, definitely worth $1, and happy to add it to my X-Men and Mutant collection. Staying on the X-Men front for a few more moments, we have a whole bunch of Astonishing X-Men books. So these were from, the early to mid 2000s, written by Joss Whedon, and John Cassaday did the art. And I have several of these. This one here is number 7, just really, really cool art of the team right there. We have number 8, awesome Wolverine cover, cool. And then we have number 13, which is another great cover. Now, none of these are keys as far as I know. It's okay. I love the X-Men. I'm happy to pick these up. Great cover art. But one of the books I did find in this run absolutely is a key, and I knew it as soon as I saw it because it's been in the news a little bit more lately. It is Astonishing X-Men number 9. So this one here is known because it's the first appearance of Danger. So Danger is the X-Men's danger room, basically their training room that they fight in the X-Mansion, becomes sentient. Basically, they turn Danger into a sentient female robot, and she goes back and forth between being an ally and an adversary. This is her first appearance. Now, I mentioned this has been in the news lately, and the reason is, recently, Ryan Reynolds announced Deadpool 3 and that Hugh Jackman would be returning, but in that video, in the beginning of the video, there's that montage of him just sort of like trying to figure out what they're going to do for the plot of Deadpool 3. And they show him in the bathroom reading a comic book. And because people love to scrutinize these things and get any intel they can, people looked at the comic book he was reading and saw that the main bad guy in that is, in fact, Danger. When people saw that, they started specking on this book being her first appearance. So this one jumped up in price. I will say to you guys that you don't need to overpay for this book, even if she does show up in those movies. Clearly, you can find it for $1. So don't go nuts trying to find this book. But it is easy to identify, and you should have your eyes open for it. Obviously, nice big blue sky there. Field of Skulls in the foreground. Great looking book. So first appearance of Danger, guys. Keep your eyes open for it. Don't overpay. You can find it pretty cheap. So next up, we have a really great cover. And I had never seen this book before I laid eyes on it in this flea market. This is Spider-Man and Daredevil, part 2 of a 4-part series, part of the Marvel Knights imprint. It's from 2001. Showing 2 of my favorite superheroes of all time, Spider-Man and Daredevil, sort of swinging over the New York streets side by side. The reason why this jumped out to me is that it's a cover done by Alex Ross. Most people know Alex Ross for his incredible photorealistic painted style, but I've always been a fan of Alex Ross, at least from the mid-90s when his series Marvels came out. So for those of you who don't know, Marvels was a 4-part series. I think they also had a issue 0, but a 4-part series depicting major events in Marvel's history as told through the eyes of like an everyman character from a reporter. So you're seeing major events like the death of Gwen Stacy, or like the first time you see the mutants, or the coming of Galactus. And when I saw these books when I was, in my early teens, I was blown away by his art style. I mean, it's beautiful, it's so realistic looking, and they were kind of expensive at the time. And I remember saving up enough lunch money to buy that whole series. I love them. They made a huge impact on me growing up and on my, collecting as an adult. So I always love to collect Alex Ross when it's a character I really like. And hey, we have 2 characters that I really like here. Fantastic. This was a 4-part series. I did look up the other covers. They're all great, but this one was by far the best, and very happy to get this for $1. Beautiful, beautiful cover, guys. Love it. Speaking of Spider-Man, we have a couple of cool Spidey books. First up, we have the Web of Spider-Man Annual number 2 from 1986. Not a key as far as I know, but it has a really cool Charles Vest cover showing Spider-Man in the black suit, not the symbiote suit. This is a black cloth suit because he actually lost the symbiote suit in Web of Spider-Man number 1. It also shows sort of the Spidey signal. It's kind of like the bat signal, but for Spider-Man. Just thought it was a cool looking book and totally worth $1, even though it's not a key. But this next one definitely is a key, and a pretty cool one at that. This is Web of Spider-Man number 18. And this is a huge key, guys, because this is the first appearance of Venom. No, it's not. It's actually the first appearance of Eddie Brock, though, the main host of the Venom symbiote suit. No, not really. It's actually the first cameo appearance of Eddie Brock. Kind of. All right, guys, this is a key issue, and it is acknowledged by some to be the first appearance of Eddie Brock, aka Venom. But for me to explain that, we're going to have to put on some scuba gear to go on a really deep dive. Okay, so on the last page of this book, Peter Parker is standing on a train platform, just pondering life's miseries, when somebody pushes him from behind. He falls into the path of this oncoming train, and he gets out in the nick of time because he's Spider-Man. And he's like, who did that? I can't believe that happened. That was so weird, right? And you don't know who did it. All you see is a pair of arms pushing him from behind. That's all you see. Well, the original writer's intent was the person that pushed him was actually a woman that we have not met yet, who blamed Spider-Man for inadvertently causing her family's death. He was in a fight with some villain, and her family was sort of, a casualty. So she hated Spider-Man, and to get back at him, she was hurting Peter Parker, who most people knew. Peter Parker and Spider-Man, they thought they were friends. He took his picture and stuff. That was originally the story, but it was never resolved until years later in Amazing Spider-Man number 388. And in that issue, you see it from Eddie Brock / Venom's point of view that was actually Eddie Brock, who always has a gripe with Peter Parker, and Eddie Brock is the one who pushed Peter Parker into the path of the oncoming train. But of course, this is a retcon, right? It was decided afterwards to make those hands that you saw at the end of this book Eddie Brock himself. And, if you look at the panel, guys, I mean, they don't really look very manly. It looks like a woman's arms. It has pink sleeves in what they're wearing. So clearly a retcon. I don't know if that was always the way it was meant to be. So because of that, because people read that other issue of Amazing Spider-Man and they go back and see this book, they say, that's the first time you actually see Eddie Brock. You see his hands pushing Peter Parker. Now, whenever you have these retcon, like first appearances and stuff, guys, I'm always very dubious of them. They're kind of neat, but at the same time, that wasn't what the original intent was. And if you don't see their face or their name, it's tough to say it's really them. But there's one thing going for this book that lends a little bit more weight to this whole theory and this whole retcon. And it's that when Peter Parker gets back to the train platform, all the spectators are like, look at him, he's shaking like a leaf, he's so scared. And Peter thinks to himself, he's like, I'm not scared because I almost died. I'm scared because my Spidey sense didn't go off. Now, everyone knows the reason why Venom is such a dangerous adversary, because the symbiote suit was on Peter for so long, it doesn't trigger his Spidey sense. So I don't know if that was something that, the original writer intended to be attached to this woman in any way, shape, or form. Maybe she wasn't really a threat. That's why it didn't go off. I'm not exactly sure, but the fact that they worked that into Venom's story later on, that it doesn't trigger his Spidey sense, adds a lot more weight to this little tiny cameo appearance of these arms pushing Peter Parker. I just thought it was really cool. I definitely read this comic book, and I read the whole thing waiting for that cameo. And again, last page. But I think it actually is a pretty cool little piece of history. And if you are a Venom / Eddie Brock fan, I think this is a book that's definitely worth picking up. You can get it pretty cheap. You can see right here on the back of the comic book the guy wrote, first Eddie Brock, $10 was the original price. You can get it for $10, $15 pretty easily. I'm very happy to get this for $1. I'll throw it in my Venom first appearances box, a little tongue in cheek. So there you go, guys. Kind of, sort of, not really the first appearance of Venom / Eddie Brock's hands, maybe because of a retcon. That's what I'm going with. Look for this book, guys. You can find it in dollar bins. So there you go, guys. Nice, quick video. Definitely in the spirit of lunch money comics. Lunch break, $12. Could not go wrong with these 12 books, guys. Head on down to those comments and let me know which of my pickups you like the best. I guess my favorite 3 would be this really cool Alex Ross cover, this first appearance of Danger. You never know, maybe she will show up. And of course, the first appearance of Venom. Whatever. It's a fun story to tell on the channel, right, guys? Head on down to the comments, let me know which of these books you like the best. In the meantime, I hope you keep hunting for comic books in strange and unusual places. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you all next time.